Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Why Are We Like This, a Heartstopper podcast. I'm Ashley, she, her.
And I am Adam, he, him. And today we are back with season 3, episode 7, Raging Hormones. Okay, it's actually called Together, but let's be real, that's what it should be called because this is a horny episode, everybody.
Yeah, everybody is making moves this episode.
And you know what? It's good to see because like we were moving towards this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's so many times like through this episode when they mention like, oh, you know, we haven't had sex, but it's like, but what else have you guys done? Because like, you know, has there been any, you know, there's many other things that you could have done. Have we done any of that together? And then, you know, I love like later on when we get like Tara talking to Nick and she's like, oh, well, we've had sex even in the school. You know, it's just,
yes. Oh my God.
he's like, Nick's like, wait, what? But I love that. And I love, obviously we'll get into it properly in the episode, but I just love like the different like levels and variations of like, you know, how important the first time is to people. And we hear it with the straight guys when they're just like, whatever. And then like, you know, obviously Nick and Charlie, it's a big thing. And with like Tara and Darcy, they've kind of already been there, done that and got the t-shirts. So I like that we explore that. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this one because it's a mixed bag, this one. And there's some really hard hitting stuff as well with Elle later on, which yikes, but we'll get into that.
It is a true roller coaster of an episode. It's like some really high highs and some really low lows.
Yeah. And I think like, you know, many people, I guess, will have been well aware within British media right now of what's happened in the news recently regarding trans people. So to watch this with that lens makes it hit even harder right now. So, yeah.
Totally.
But as you said, Ash, the highs are really great. The lows are really tough. But this is Heartstopper. You know, like that's kind of the journey that you go on with this show. It's one of its strengths in many ways.
But yeah, it's been a minute since we recorded. We took a 1 week release hiatus, which is really about 3 weeks in real time. Yeah, so I like went to California, went to Buffy prom. Ooh. That was so much fun. I stayed one night on a haunted ship, which was phenomenal, and I will be back.
Can't wait to hear all about that.
Yeah, that's how I rounded out my Buffy prom trip. I stayed on the Queen Mary. It was exactly what I needed. Just a night to myself after all of the commotion of prom. I just like sat out on the sun deck at night because I don't like the daytime. And I just like read fan fiction.
Listen, if all of your holidays don't end with like a night on a haunted ship, what are you doing in life? Like seriously, that's how it should end. But I love that reading fanfic as well, like out on the nighttime. That's just brilliant. Was it Heartstopper fanfic you were reading?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Yeah, that was also the White Lotus finale night. So I got to watch the White Lotus finale on a haunted ship in my room.
And then Ashley and I text like pretty much, I think it was the next day, was it? And was like, okay, what are your thoughts? And we had like a full rundown. We were pretty much like in sync with our thoughts on the season finale, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I enjoyed it overall. I did prefer season 2 though. I mean, just hearing
season 2 is my favorite. Yeah.
Hearing the immortal line, "These gays, they're trying to murder me." I mean, how do you top that? How do you top that?
Also, that cast was just catered specifically to me.
Oh my God.
So it's like, I know I'm biased, but season 2 is where it's at for me. So.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Aubrey Plaza, I could watch her in anything.
Yes.
Oh my God. And am I saying her name right? Is it Megan Faye? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Which I'll talk a little bit about a movie that I saw with her in the other night, Drop. And, you know, straight after I texted Ashley about it, because like, I was in the cinema and I was like, Ashley, I'm going to see this movie. And you were like, oh, it stars her. Yeah, let me know what it's like. So, you know what? Like, it's very fun. I will say that about the movie. Like, it's like, it reminded me so much of the movie Trap, which I like the first half of Trap. I think the last half of Trap, like I was like, the trap door's opened and the movie's just fallen through itself because what's going on. But this movie does like the best kind of version of Trap where like the majority of the movie, for anyone that doesn't know, it's Megan Faye's character goes on a date. She gets like airdropped these weird messages from somebody in the restaurant and it's threatening her son who is at home. And she's like, oh, well, I'll just call the police. And then like straight away, it's like, no, like don't call the police. I'll have your son killed. Don't leave the restaurant. I'll have your son killed. And like she's been... Yeah, exactly. And it's like a bit of thriller, a bit of mystery. There's a little bit of action in there, but it's fun. Yeah, it's definitely worth seeing, definitely worth checking out. I said the ending goes a little bit silly in places where you're like, okay, but it doesn't take away from the movie overall. I recommend it. I had a lot of fun with it. And it's an hour and a half. So like perfect time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're in and out.
Nice. We finally sat down and watched Y2K with Rachel Zegler. Did you watch that?
No, how is it? It's on my list.
I think you'll love it, personally. It's so campy. It's a campy horror. As like two people who lived through Y2K and remember it, like the references were good, the fashion was good, the music phenomenal.
Nice.
I loved it. I loved every second of it. It also is just so funny. Like Zach and I were cracking up watching it. Highly recommend that.
It's on the list. It's on the list.
Yes. And the other movie I saw was Warfare with Kit Connor, which some of y'all may have seen. I shared in the stories. I only really went because Kit came to Atlanta, and I am like 3.5 drive from Atlanta, 3.5 hours. So I was like, well, let me just see about this. And tickets were free. Yeah, they like introduced the film, and then they had reserved the middle row for them. So they like sat and watched the film with us, and then they did a panel at the end. The film was not for me, so I don't really have much feedback for y'all on that. My one like positive thing I've been telling people is that the sound was really cool. And so do with that what you will. But it was really cool to like get to see Kit in my region. That was what I was like the most excited about. It was like, Atlanta, that's basically my backyard. I can't not go.
Right, exactly. And like, gosh, I mean, you know, my region now is New York City, but like, you know, to imagine seeing Kit in like Durham, like where I'm from in England, where he does bloody go in the comics, but doesn't in the show. That was like, you know, me living vicariously through you at that point, Ash, where I'm like, oh my God, like when I was reading the comics and I see they go to Durham, I was like, well, I'm ascending from my chair.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I get that. And it's, you know, at least like you got to see Kit like again in person after seeing him in Romeo and Juliet. So yeah,
it was a super fun trip. My friend Katie went with me. I went and picked her up. We did a little road trip down. We stopped at Buc-ee's, got some barbecue. It was a fun day.
What is Buc-ee's? I don't know.
It is a travel center, gas station, convenience store situation, but it's gigantic.
Oh, nice.
And they have barbecue, brisket, like
Ooh.
You can get anything. If you can think of it, they have it at Buc-ee's.
Well, Buc-ee's has got it going on.
Yes. They're extremely popular.
Right. Okay. Let's take a trip to... And is that like all over America, or is it just more Southern America? Or
I actually don't know the answer to that. It's at least the Southeast.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they have them a little bit out West.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of like what the equivalent would be, but I don't know if there is one.
Right. Buc-ee's is just its own thing.
It is, yeah. I think that if you saw the logo, you would probably recognize it just because it is so like
iconic.
Yeah. If people have shirts, they have onesies, they, you know, like it's Buc-ee's is like a whole thing, and it's Bucees. So a lot of people will say Boosies, which is
that's something else.
Yes.
When gay men say I fancy a boosie, they're talking about something very different. That's funny though.
Did you want to talk about adolescence?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Ashley and I, on my podcast called Last Week On, which I know you all already listened to. So we've covered like a fair few things on there, like the TV show Invincible. We've done like The Last of Us Season 1 and like many different things like that. And a couple of movies as well. And Ashley jumped on with me very recently, a couple of weeks ago, and we did a full episode all about adolescence, the big, massive show on Netflix that's like really taken off right now, which talks about like, you know, toxic masculinity and young men and influences like that. And it's 4 episodes. Each of them are about an hour long, just under maybe. If you haven't watched it yet, I strongly recommend. Ashley was the one who suggested it to me, that you sit down and watch it because, you know, it's weird. It's kind of like, you know, it's set in England. It's set in like Northern England. So it kind of like exists in like a sphere off like the other side over here, somewhere away from Heartstopper, which is like, you know, existing in another sphere over here. But I really recommend it for how important it is. And obviously on the back of that, if you haven't seen, it's currently being shown and taught in schools, you know, like because it's that important what it talks about. So yeah, I won't spoil anymore. All I'll say is go and watch it. Episode 1 will have you hooked.
Yeah.
Ashley and I did a full podcast talking all about that show, how important it is, how strong it is, how clever it is, and just how fun, but at the same time difficult, tough, but really important it is as a watch. So go and listen to that as well if you have watched Adolescence.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the show notes. But
yes,
also it's every episode is one shot, which is like what's really cool about it. It feels like you're in it.
And as well, like Ashley and I spoke about this, but in episode 2, there's like this moment when the camera like goes through like the window, and you're just like, how did they do that? But it's really clever, like as well how they managed to do that. And episode 3 is landmark television, in my opinion. Like that 100%. For me, wow.
Okay, so a couple of things. I have 2 before we start notes. One is upon further investigation.
Oh, here we go.
The photo that we mentioned last time that moves from Nick's to Charlie's is not the same photo, but 2 extremely similar photos that are clearly from the same set.
Interesting.
The one at Nick's, if you really put them like side by side and look, the one at Nick's is more of like a beach. It almost looks like a beach photo, and the one at Charlie's looks like mountains maybe, but they're the same colors and the same general shapes. Just slightly laid out different, like just ever so slightly.
Gotcha.
So, and that just made me automatically think, isn't it just so pretty to think all along there was some invisible string tying you to me? That they each have a set, one of these in their houses.
That damn picture was the string the whole time, holding the show together.
And then Franzi on Discord keeping me honest and was like, hey, did you ever go back and count how many Hi Charlies are in Journey? And I did now because I forgot, but I went back. And if my calculations are correct, there are 8 Hi Charlies in the 1 episode Journey.
8? Jesus Christ. That's a lot of Hi Charlie.
Sure is. Okay, are we ready to dive in? It starts with Dive by Olivia Dean.
Absolutely.
This song, it makes you feel exactly what you're supposed to here. You can like feel all of the like yearning and like falling deeper, but also the anxiety of like everything that they're going through. So we get this opening montage that's a balance of Nick and Tara, and it's like going back and forth between the 2 of them. And they're the 2 that like are stressing out about their futures and don't know what they want to do. And like, I love that we get their outlets side by side. And Tara's is like dancing her ass off in ballet, like sweating so much. And Nick's is like running around with Charlie and like daydreaming about being with him. It's so cute.
It's a beautiful like opening shot of like, you know, these are the 2 characters that like we're really going to focus on in this episode, and like they are going to come together and talk to each other, because we've always said, Ash, like you and I as well, from like first time I started doing this podcast, like how much their friendship is really strong, and I love to see them together. So like it's interesting as well where like it's like their happy places, right? Where Tara is so dictated to all the time of, oh, you're going to go to this university, you're going to do this. Whereas she is doing her independent thing here of like, fuck all of that. I am dancing my ass off. And by the way, dancing very well.
Yeah.
When then Nick's happy place is with Charlie. And he says that later on, like towards the end, when he's like, you know, when you're not around, I kind of feel lost. Yeah. So like, it's so nice to see them in their happy places here. Because when there is just them 2, that's when they both kind of fall into each other a little bit more, because they're on the same journey in that way. And when they realize, actually, when we take a bit of a step back, we do feel a little bit lost, but for different reason, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so just to go through the montage, we got Nick and Charlie in form. This is after Tara's dancing. And then Charlie like touches Nick's hand and sparks fly. And he like looks down at their hands and then flips it over to hold it. And we cut back. Tara's still dancing. And then we go to Nick and Charlie in Charlie's room, and they're like sitting, leaning up against the bed, and Charlie touches Nick's bicep and the sparks fly all over again. And Nick looks at Charlie like he's the most precious thing to ever exist. And I love it so much.
Yeah, Kit Connor really excels in this. Like, and it's nice as well. It's that, you know, it's leading up to like, you know, they're moving into more of like the physical side of their relationship. So for all, they've obviously kissed and everything like that and held hands, but when you are moving into that territory with somebody, it's when you're touching their arms and like, looking at them in that way more lustfully, it's very different. It's like you're kind of seeing them in a different way now.
Yeah.
And I like that it's building up like that physical attraction's built up really well. Plus, like, just that, like, compounded, like, next to, like, Tara dancing, which is a very physical, kind of sweaty act as well.
True.
It kind of, it's balancing like that, where, like, probably, like, in Nick's mind, he's, like, as sweaty as what Tara is right now with Charlie.
I was going to say Tara is sweaty and Nick wishes he was.
Right. This is like the movie Titanic with Rose's hands slapping on the glass window. Like,
yes.
That's what's happening in Nick's head right now.
It's so true. But I love what you said, because like we know in Body when Charlie's in his room and he's talking to Tao and Isaac and he's like, and it's not like we haven't done anything. Sometimes when we're making out, and then he gets cut off.
Yes.
So, like, we get that build up with Charlie, and then they have those conversations in Body about, like, yeah, I do want to go further, but I'm, like, nervous to take my shirt off. So, like, now that Nick knows that they're on the same page, he is pining so hard.
Yeah.
We cut back to Tara, and my note here is just that I don't know any dance terms, but she's killing it.
She is serving massively.
Yes.
Yeah, she's killing it.
She's getting more and more worked up. You can like really tell that she's working through her shit in this class.
Yeah.
And we cut to Nick and Charlie in the locker rooms, and Charlie's like unbuttoning his top and he looks over at Nick and the sparks fly. And then we get another quick shot of Tara at ballet, and then Nick and Charlie at practice, and Charlie tackles Nick. And it's always the tackle for Nick.
I mean,
going back to season 1.
Hey, listen.
And then ballet class ends, or their number finishes at least, and Tara's like worn out. She is panting. She put her whole soul into that.
Mm-hmm. And good for her. Finding that outlet that she loves, that is something that, she hasn't been told to do. Like, this is something that she wants to do, something she's bloody good at, and can get it all out in, like, a really productive way, So good for her for finding that.
Definitely. And it feels so good when you do have something like that.
Oh my God, the best. And so many people have different things, like whether it's like writing things down, whether it's like going for a walk, or like, some people like zone out, some people work through those thoughts, or like it's basically kind of like throwing them out of you in some way. And I think Tara like dances her way through that.
Yeah.
And it's great to see. Like, it's such a physical workout for her physically, but also mentally. So she probably feels like, oh my God, I've shred so much mental weight after that. And that's what I needed to do. So good for her. It's great when people are able to do that.
Totally. And then we cut back to Nick and Charlie post-tackle, and Nick sits up, and Charlie, like, smiles down at him, and then blam, we get the pink daydream, like, creep in, and Nick has his little vision of, like, grabbing Charlie and pulling him on top of him, and they're, like, making out in the field, and the sparks are going cuckoo bananas. and Charlie pulls him out by being like, Nick, why are you looking at me like that? And he just, like, looks totally wrecked. And we get the title card. But I'm like, how did he answer that? Because, like, you know why he's looking at you like that, Charlie. You know.
Yeah. He's having fun with it. Like, why are you looking at me like that? Like, just please, what are you seeing in your mind right now? Because I want to know every detail right the hell now.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah.
And then we get this title card. Dead, dead, dead. Code Blue. She's down. I'm already at a 5 just from the opening.
Yeah, it's super cute. It's like, it nicely builds up, like, as I said earlier, like this episode and what it's really going to focus on. And, the payoff is right in the very end, like we get that. And like, and not even just with Nick and Charlie, like, with the other characters, when we say like Darcy and Tara, like later on, even though they are kind of further along in their kind of sexual adventures compared to Nick and Charlie, but still, like, it's all of this like leading together up to that. And
I feel like Nick and Charlie's is a little more physical, but the other two couples definitely come closer emotionally in this episode.
Oh my God, especially Tao and Elle. Oof, massively in that respect, which obviously we'll get to.
Yeah. So we got to the park, and it's Nick and Tara and Henry and Nellie. And Nick is like, I told you, dog cuddles solve everything. And Tara's like, yeah, this is exactly what I need.
That damn dog is so cute. Oh my God.
That dog does not want to be there.
No, no, that dog's like, get me out of here.
Yeah. Like, this is the one that got fired, I think.
So cute.
So Nick is like, yeah, you seem like you've been a little bit stressed lately. And she's like, I've been a bit stressed all year. I've had way too much on my plate, and I love my ballet class, but you have to take 3 buses to get there, and that is a lot of buses.
Where is that class?
Yeah.
Like, right outside of London.
Seriously. I also would not. I get car sick really bad, and so, like, and of all of the modes of transportation, the buses are the worst.
My God.
Even worse than boats for me. Buses.
Oh, really?
Fucking suck. Yeah. It's
Man.
It's the constant bouncing. And then Nick, being the little sweetheart that he is, was like, well, I can drive you to ballet if you want. I'm not doing anything on most Saturdays anyway. So, to which I have questions about his rugby schedule. Would that not be going on Saturdays?
And would you not be seeing your boyfriend because you're both off school? Discuss.
True. I mean, Charlie could ride along.
Of course. Yeah. But like when he's like, oh, I haven't got much going on Saturdays, I'm like,
you don't have extra practices. You don't have matches. Like,
like, let's discuss.
Maybe not every Saturday, but at least 2 of the 4 that are in a typical month.
Yeah, like that calendar. Let's have a look at that calendar, Nick, and then let's have this conversation again.
Which, I mean, I guess we do get. They're like close. They had their last practice or whatever. So maybe he just means for the summer, but that wasn't very clear.
No, it was not.
Tara's like, you don't have to. And he's like, no, I want to. And so she says, okay, well, maybe. And then she swiftly changes the subject and asks, anyway, what's going on with you? I feel like we haven't had a catch up in ages. How are you and Charlie? And Nick goes into like, you can almost tell he's on autopilot at this point.
Yeah.
And I guess you do hit a certain point when you or someone that you're close with is going through something heavy that a lot of people know about. Because you get a lot of how are you doings, and you do kind of go into that autopilot, and so you can kind of see him like flip into that. And he's like, good, yeah, Charlie's been a lot better these days, so. And she's like, and how is Nick doing? And he's like, fine, yeah, I'm all good.
Yeah, I'm all good through like a forced smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of tough because we've all been there. You know what I mean? Like when someone close to us is going through something, and when someone asks how you're doing, your first instinct is to tell them how the other person is doing. You know, and it's like, well, that's great, but you know, if I wanted to know that, I would have asked Charlie. Like, I'm asking you, and that becomes your default. And the reason why I really love this is because it's like in my notes, I like put it's almost like, you know, the support staff checking in with each other. Because you know, like Charlie's been through this massive ordeal that's still ongoing. You know, and then Darcy's been through a lot this season as well, and the end of last season.
Yeah.
So like, you know, each relationship have had their support that they've leaned on. And that's still that's been their world for like the past kind of couple of months or however long it's been, you know? So like to step out of that and like ask yourself, how the hell am I doing? Bearing in mind their age as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to ask those existential crisis questions anyway, let alone of everything that they've been through. And at that age is a lot. So like, it's so easy for him to deflect like that, because the reality is it's almost like the Goodwill Hunting effect of like, I don't need to know what you know. I need to know how you are. And he's deliberately avoiding that because the truth is he's scared shitless because he doesn't know, you know? And like, that's why it gets later on when he's talking to, you know, Charlie, and he says like, I'm so scared because when you're not around, I'm so lost. So it's that coming to the surface. But I do love this friendship so much.
Yeah.
I love that they're able to speak to each other in many different ways about many different things, you know. And at this point, I guess Nick's just trying to find the right way of talking about what he's going through right now, and kind of failing a little bit at that right now, but his guard is up and he's still trying to figure a lot out in his head.
Yeah, totally. And then Tara's like, kind of what you just said. She's like, that's because you've been focusing on helping Charlie, and I get it. I've been focused on Darcy and all of their stuff with their mom. You just need to remember to look after yourself too. And I love that she throws in at the end, like, I still think journaling is really beneficial.
You know what?
So cute.
She ain't wrong.
Yes. And it's like, I think that she's talking to herself as much as she's talking to him when she's like, you just have to remember to look after yourself too, because that's something we see her kind of like accept and start doing in this episode.
Yep. I think that starts with the dancing, to be honest. That's self-care for her, you know, and no one else has told her to do that. She's doing that because that's what she needs on her own terms.
For herself, yeah.
Yep, good for her.
Totally. And then we cut to Truum, and we are in sex ed, baby.
Hey, there we are. Can I just say as well, my sex education classes did not involve a cucumber. Like, this was not a thing. But what I will say is that when my biology teacher pulled out like this fake erect penis, like my class erupted. Like we were like, where did you get that from? First of all,
this is from my personal collection.
Literally, like her name's engraved on like the bottom of it, like Andy in Toy Story. And I'm just like, we were all just like, hold on a second. And then like it had like even the sucker bottoms, like when she slammed it on the table and it stayed there, we were all like, what is happening? And then like literally explained all of sex ed to us with this thing wobbling on the table, and then did the whole thing of, getting the condom out and like putting it on, and then we had to have a go, and it was just like, what are we doing? But yeah,
how'd
so we
do that with one? You have to stand in a line and go through down?
Actually, one at a time in a line.
No.
Take a condom from the bucket, open it up, slip it on there, make sure the nibs at the top. Like, honestly, we were just like, what are we doing?
It's so awkward.
Yeah. And like everyone was just dying of laughter. Even the teacher was like trying to stifle her laugh. But, it was just like, we got to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, cucumbers is funny. But I do like the physical comedy in this scene of like, like when Tao was like talking to like Charlie and like pointing the cucumber at him and shit like that.
So
and,
good.
Like one of my favorite lines, which, maybe might be my favorite line by the end, is when he says like, just have sex with him, please, so we can stop hearing about it. I think it's a great line. Great line.
Yes.
Yeah, the physical comedy in this scene alone is great.
Yeah, totally. We also, at least to my knowledge, did not have cucumbers, but I have seen this in media a lot. Cucumbers and bananas. They would not have allowed that in the Bible Belt. We get Mr. Lane. I love that it's him. I know it's him in the comics, but like this actor just like chef's kiss.
Yeah, he's great.
He's like, okay, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Cucumbers and condoms. And we see Charlie and Isaac and Tao at their little desk, and Charlie is spiraling. He is doing the thing where he just gets faster and faster as he's talking. And he's like, we both want to take things further, but I don't want to make things awkward again. And honestly, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing. And I don't want our first time to be really bad and embarrassing. And maybe if I'm this nervous about it, then maybe I'm not ready to do anything at all. And Tao's like, whoa, calm down.
Calm the fuck down.
Yeah. And Isaac's like, well, it's a good thing we're in sex ed then. Maybe you'll get some good advice. And Mr. Lang comes over and sets the condoms and cucumbers down. And he's like, or maybe not.
Yeah.
And then Tao's like, you're clearly ready, Charlie. You literally won't shut up about it. And Isaac's like, yeah, I mean, it's not exactly rocket science. Like, how hard can it really be? And he's like, I don't know. I feel like I don't know anything. And that's when we get Tao's line of, ugh, just have sex with him, please, so we can stop hearing about it.
Great line.
So
Great
good.
line.
And Will Gow's delivery is, he has some of the best comedic moments of the entire show. He's so good.
Yeah, he's definitely grown on me for that reason. Comparative to season 1, like he needed to have this.
Yeah. And I love that he starts to open his condom. He puts it on backwards and he's like, oh, I've got it the wrong way around. And also like the second that he touches it, he's like, oh, so slimy. It's so good.
Feels so ad-libbed. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know whether it was like, but like his delivery of that just feels so ad-libbed.
Yeah, it really does. And in the background, Mr. Lang is like, focus. And it feels like the way that he's saying it is like, this is the most important thing you'll ever do in your entire life. Focus.
Yeah. Get that on properly.
Yes. And the like mischief music starts playing and Charlie pulls out his phone and we see like their thread of text where they've been flirting and Charlie had said, can we go on a drive sometime soon? And Nick is like, haha, where to? And Charlie says, I don't know. I just like you being my taxi driver. And Nick is like, well, when you learn to drive, I'll get my revenge. Which is like so true. The second that anyone gets a license, that is it. You are now the driver. That is how that works in high school.
Tell me about it. Bloody hell.
And Charlie's like actively texting. We can see that he's typing. And this is the part where Tao has the condom the wrong way around. And I usually get so caught up watching Tao that I miss it. But if you watch Charlie, he is absolutely cheesing, like so proud of himself sending this message. And it is adorable.
I love the reply later on. He just says gay. Like that just made me laugh out loud so much.
We cut over to Nick. And he is filling out the most comically large life map I've ever seen in my entire life. The categories are my future, family, education, aspirations, and careers. Basically, Nick's worst nightmare right now.
And writing that at that age, Jesus Christ. Like, oh, there's something that Nick looks at later on as well, which was like the bane of my existence at that age, which we'll get to, but it's like UCAS, which I'll talk about later. But oh boy.
I saw that. Yeah. And the text from Charlie comes in. And it says, "Hey, I'm in sex ed right now, and it's so useless." True. From what I saw of this sex ed class, it is useless.
Right.
And Nick is like, "OMG, what are you learning about?" And then fucking Harry. I knew it was going to be Harry. I knew it. I knew it was going to be him in the show. And he's like popping off, being a douchebag. He's like, "She was proper decent." And he says, like, she was just feeling it all night. And, like, you could tell she wanted it. And I was like, oh, I hate it. I hate it.
There's something about Harry's voice as well. And just, she was proper decent. It gets under my skin when I hear him talk. And I mean, props to the actor, right? He's playing the part well. But, like, it just gets under my skin whenever I hear him talk. I'm like, shut up, Harry.
It just makes me want to punch him.
Literally. I'm like, you're talking out of your ass and everyone on that table knows it. Like, just shut up, man. No one's believing you.
Yeah. And we pan back over to Nick and the lads, and Otis is like, he was boasting about it yesterday as well. And Sai is like, I just don't think losing your virginity is that big of a deal. Like, it's probably going to be bad anyway. Which is a valid concern, because you don't really know what you're doing.
Exactly.
And Christian's like, offended. He comes in hot. He's like, it is a big deal, actually, because it's the first time you're having sex. And, like, that is a big deal. And he says, I mean, I know the concept of virginity is bullshit, but, like, I'm still nervous. And I'm so glad that line made it in, because that was a Sahar line from the comics. And I was like, I really want that line to be in the show, because the concept of virginity is bullshit.
Yep. And it's like, it's so nice as well. And, like, that's what I mean about the payoff at the end, is that it's so good that we're getting all of these different conversations about it, because it's right. Like, it's romanticized in so many different ways, right? And, like, most times it just happens when you least expect it to happen. It's not like this beautiful, like, let's go on a romantic date and then go back to, like, a room and, like, it's all sensual. There's music playing, there's candles, blah, 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 blah. Normally it just happens when you least expect it, you know? And, like, that's my experience anyway. And that's what happens at the end here when, like, you know, Nick and Charlie having this really kind of deep conversation about how each other feels and checking in really with Nick. And then suddenly it's like, all right, bam, now we're doing it. You know, and, like, that's the reality of the situation. That's how it happens. So, like, I love all of this, of, like, them talking about this, right? And all the different expectations, because at that age, it is laid on you. And it is ridiculous, this whole thing of, like, oh, you know, losing your virginity is this huge thing you've got to jump up on the ceiling and scream out about, or, like, act like Harry in a classroom. Yeah. And the reality is, happens when it happens. Everyone goes, you know, majority of people go through it.
Yeah. And, like, not to get too off track, but just, like, virginity was a concept that was made by men to control and be able to, like, sell women, basically. It's all just patriarchal bullshit.
It's wild. And, like, even going back in pop culture, like, do you know who Charlotte Church is? Ashley, have I mentioned her before on the pod? In British, like, you know, media, like, people know Charlotte Church. She was a classically trained singer, and, like, she was discovered, like, she used to sing in churches. She came on TV and sang. Suddenly she blew up to be, like, this big classical singer. And I remember, like, when she was, like, getting older, and then in, like, newspapers and shit, there was, like, a countdown timer at one point placed on her to when she was going to lose her virginity.
No.
And I'm like, what are we doing? Going back to adolescence, watch the show. This is what Ashley and I are talking about. Yes. It dives heavily into this type of thing and critiques it massively. So yeah, all that is to say is it's built up to be this huge thing, and it shouldn't be, because whose business is it but the people that are engaging in it? So get over it.
Absolutely. I also don't love, it's a cute, funny little background conversation, I guess, but I don't love the, like, just wait till marriage. And then Christian's like, nah. I do like Otis being like, it's only 5 years. Like, like, where do you get that arbitrary number?
Right.
And I do love in the comics the, like, little back and forth we get of, like, Nick. And everybody's like, what's he thinking about? Oh, well, he's
Yeah.
probably thinking about all the sex he's having with Charlie. Oh, you can't relate to our virgin struggles. Like, that bit from the comic is so good, and I wish it would have been instead of this marriage joke. But overall, a cute little bit from the lads.
Yeah, lots.
And while that little conversation is going on, Nick gets a reply text from Charlie, and he's like, just put a condom on a cucumber, same as last year's sex ed. Actually, I would like to point out that Tao is the only one of the three of them that actually put the condom on the cucumber. The other two are still sitting exactly where the teacher sat them. But I digress.
Right.
And Nick, cheeky little Nick, is like, oh, well, maybe you should try it not on a cucumber sometime. Which,
I mean,
Charlie is instantly a blushing mess.
Listen, he had a right to send that message. I love it. Like, go for it, man. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, head to the south and buy some bussies. Like, this is what we're talking about.
I was going to cut that bit, but I'm going to have to leave it in now just for that, that payoff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So yeah, Charlie is a blushing mess, and he just replies, gay. Which is so good.
I love that.
And Tao leans over and reads the text. And Tao's like, the way you guys flirt is so weird. And Charlie's jerk reaction is so funny. The way he's like, don't look at my text. And Lang says, we are now going to look at some STIs. And everyone is just losing their mind. When they see it.
I love that reaction when they're all like, oh, yeah. Right, it's brilliant.
And accurate.
Yes.
Also, while we're recording right now, it is currently STI Awareness Week. So this is everyone's reminder to go get tested.
Yes, it's important.
So yeah, just to like comment on this sex ed class as someone who teaches sex ed, there's a lot more that should be covered. And it's sad that how accurate this is for sex ed that happens in schools.
Mm-hmm. They've definitely played it more for, like, laughs.
Yeah.
Like, 100%.
Yeah, but, it's definitely written to be like, look how bad sex ed is in schools.
Yeah. Weirdly accurate as well in some schools.
Yes. And we cut back to Tao, Isaac, and Charlie, and then we get this lovely conversation where Tao's like, look, I don't blame you for being nervous. It's normal. And Charlie's like, easy for you to say. You were so confident. And Tao's like, no. It cuts him off. He's like, I was not, Charlie. I just like making it sound like the most cinematic night of my life. But we were in some random bedroom at a house party and we had no idea what we were doing. And even after that, we still had a lot to learn about each other and what feels good. And we get like this little mini montage of a couple shots of him and Elle, like making out in the bed that was in that house. And then we get a shot of them like in the bedroom and they're like removing clothing awkwardly and laughing and giggling. And he continues on to say, maybe we get things wrong, but it's not some sort of like perfect, effortless thing. It's me and Elle though, and we love each other. Even if it's awkward, we can just laugh about it. I mean, it's supposed to be fun, isn't it? And that's when he like picks up the cucumber, like waves it in his face. He's like, isn't it? And Charlie like giggles and hugs him.
I love that. That for me is like, say what you want about Tao, but like the journey he's gone on up in Charlie's friend, like this is the best outcome from that, from like revealing Charlie's sexuality accidentally to then like being really jealous of like him and Nick and like all the ups and downs he's gone through with Charlie, but then to get to this point when he's like, don't worry about it, don't compare yourself to other people, we ain't all got it, like even us who have lost our virginity already, like one, I mean whatever, but two, like there isn't some kind of written expectation you must do it this way or like whatever. He's just saying we kind of fumbled our way through it and it happened. Like don't worry about it. It'll happen when it happens. You got this. Pointing the cucumber in his face to make light of it is the best thing you can do when your friend's freaking out at that moment. Just to make them aware that don't put all this pressure on it. Just let it happen when it happens.
Yeah,
and it's a great friendship moment.
Yeah, and he's spitting truth too. Like
absolutely, yeah.
Things are gonna go wrong when even just with a new partner. Like not even your very first time, just your first time with someone new. Things are going to be a little awkward. That's just how it is.
The nature of the beast.
Yeah. It's good advice from Tao.
Yeah.
And we get him saying, and one last thing, remember folks, and it cut to the teacher and he is in front of the sign that says chlamydia equal bad.
Yeah. He's just staring as well, wide-eyed.
Yes. And Tao's like, I think I should be running this sex ed lesson. And I'm like, I think you should too, Tao.
Yep. Take that key, come into the front of the class and go.
Yeah. Mr. Lang, I need you to sit down.
I
Tao's got it from here. And then Charlie's like, how was Elle's interview? She didn't really mention it in the group chat. And Tao gets like visibly uncomfortable and is like, yeah, it was, I think they decided not to air it. And Charlie just says that sucks. And I'm like, is he not going to ask why? Isaac, no one, nobody cares why, nobody. And like, maybe it's because he got so physically, maybe he didn't want to like push it. Yeah. But maybe the intention was to like check in with Elle directly later about it or something. But I just feel like it didn't show that he cared.
Right. And I mean, especially the fact that it's the three of them who are like very good friends together.
Yeah.
Like the natural conversation would have then been like, oh, like, what's up? Was everything all right? Did it go okay? And then, but I guess, I guess the justification in a way can be like, they can see like Tao is like tensing up. So like if he's like, oh, well, let's not push it. Let's kind of move on from that. And he'll tell us when he wants to. But again, it's what you said, Ash, like we do very quickly then go to Elle. So like, you know, that's the answer to that question in a way.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, like as a friendship moment, like Tao's been really good with Charlie at that point. So like you would kind of expect him to be like, oh shit, was everything okay? How did it go? But I guess narratively they knew this scene was coming with Elle, so they kind of thought, we'll just let that play out.
Yeah, that's true. So we cut over to Lambert and Elle is like reading some political articles, which sucks. The first one says, latest, trans women to be banned from female hospital wards. And the second one says, government official declares, say no to gender ideology in schools. I will say at least the comments that were shown on the posts were in like, what? Are you serious? Like, what is going on? So that's nice. At least there wasn't like hateful comments on top of it that she was reading through, but...
Yeah.
Oh, it's so heavy. It's so heavy, especially after the news this week.
Yeah, in England. And like, it hit so hard. Like watching this, it hit hard anyway. You know, like watching this is never tough. You know, but like, especially on the back of like what's recently happened in the UK with like legislation, what's happened. And it's like, it just hit so hard again. And like, you know, how tough this is to watch like Elle go through and then think of like your trans friends that you've got and what they're going through right now, you know? And it's like, it can already, you know, obviously I'm not a trans person, Ashley isn't a trans person, but like, you know, go and talk to your trans friends and check in with them like after this, you know, like this is what the show should really promote, and it is promoting. Like check in with them, have that conversation with them, ask them how they're doing in the way that Tara asks Nick, you know, because right now it can feel so isolating, it can feel so scary, unpredictable. It can feel like one step forward and three steps back in many ways. And you know, it's not your feet that are taking those steps, your feet are physically being pushed back by something else. And it just must be really tough. So to see that right now, after everything that's happened recently, to see how people online, big public figures, are promoting the success of that happening is crazy. So yeah, this just hits differently in many ways, and it's tough. But one of the really nice things is that, you know, we were talking earlier about people having their outlets, right, with like Tara dancing and everything like that, is to see Elle doing the picture. And like that picture is, beautiful. And the fact that it's of her is just, you know, like, I'm still here. I'm still important. This is like the beauty of who I am. And I just think that's beautiful.
Yeah, but it's also like so sad because she is disconnected from it in this moment, you know, and it is like she's disconnected from herself too.
Well, I think it's good though, because like it is that. But then later on in the episode, when she's made to like, when Tao makes her that beautiful video and it's about her and she gets to see herself again, you know, she's painted herself in that picture and like, you know, you can look at it in a very sad way, you know, like, cause like even the facial expression isn't giving like complete happiness, right? And of course that makes sense. But Tao captures her in some of her happiest, joyous moments. Totally. That it's nice when she gets to see herself like that, maybe not the way she sees herself right now, you know, and that's reflective in the picture. And then when that comes and happens at the end, the way it picks her up is just, so powerful.
Yeah, totally. So she sighs and puts her phone down, and the teacher walks up and she's like, it looks like you've almost finished. And Elle's like, I don't think I like it anymore. And the teacher's like, why not? And she just keeps kind of working on it but not answering. And the teacher's like, I'm so sorry about the interview. Your mother called me. And Elle says, I should have expected it. And the teacher is like, instant reaction of, no, you shouldn't. And it really made me think of season 1, Charlie saying like, I'm used to it. And Nick saying, well, you shouldn't have to be. So that was just like a nice parallel between these two. And Elle's like, it doesn't matter. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And she kind of just stares into her painting at this point, and the teacher walks away. And in the background, you can see Naomi and Felix looking over at Elle. Mm-hmm. And I'll get into this a little bit more as we go on, but you could tell she's like deeply, deeply affected by that interview. And like she's constantly replaying it in her head, I think. And like now she's going down these news spirals. She's disconnected from her art. It's like really, really taking a toll on her.
Yeah. It's so hard to watch, but I do love that she's got her friends around her as well still.
Yeah.
Because they're so good.
Yeah.
Really good with her as well. And it is like, later on when she does kind of say like, oh, I don't know, like, if Tao can really understand what I'm going through. And the fact that she's got these two wonderful people around her who are the best people who can lift her up right now is just, I love it.
Yeah, it's really good. So we got to Nick and Charlie running to Nick's house after school. And you know that it's urgent for Nick when he is leaving Charlie in the dust. And Charlie's like, slow down. And they run in and they run up to Nick's room and they drop their bags and they immediately start making out. And they lay down on the bed and Charlie starts to lift up Nick's shirt and then David walks in.
Fucking David. If there's anyone to cockblock you, you do not want it to be that guy.
Honestly, he handled it better than I thought that he would when he walked in. He just kind of like laughs it off. And he does say sorry, which is good for David. I love Nick's, don't come in, fuck off. And like the way that he's like, he like holds his hand out in the stop motion and then he like makes a fist and he's like, no, and does the stop again. It's so good.
And Charlie's face in that moment as well is so funny when he's just like, like, what is happening?
Yeah. So they're catching their breath. And Nick like looks from the door to Charlie to the door to Charlie. And he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't know he was here. And Charlie's like, it's all right. I'm just glad it wasn't your mom. And I was like, yeah, your ghost mom.
Yeah, where is Olivia Colman right now?
And they like giggle and then they like chill out some with a little cuddle.
Yeah.
And we cut to the spring house for one of my favorite scenes. And Charlie's playing his drums. So yes, I want to point out in this shot, the globe is not on. And Nick has text, I'm a bit nervous. I don't really know what I'm doing. And then we cut to Charlie again and the globe is on.
Continuity error.
Oh, I think they do it on purpose.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, it's been done in the past where like...
Oh, I see.
So like he's anxious about the sex, right? Globe is off. Nick texts him, globe is on. And then once they hang up, he looks over at the mirror and gets a little bit anxious and the globe is off again. So I think it's on purpose, but I love to point it out.
That makes sense. Yes, it's an ongoing thing, of course. Yes.
And then we cut to Nick and Nellie and Henry, and he's on his laptop as well. And we cut to his phone, and Charlie says, I mean, you've been doing a pretty good job so far. So,
and I'm like,
there's the confidence right there.
Exactly. Love it.
And Nick sends a blushy face, and then he just like grins lovingly at his phone until Charlie responds again. And he says, we can be nervous together. And then we get the split screen where we can see both of them at the same time. Nick is like, cringe. And Charlie just sends a heart, and Nick sends a heart back. And so that's when we cut back to Charlie, and he sets his phone down, he looks in the mirror, and we get kind of like that wonky music. But he looks away and goes back to his drums. Like you can see him throughout this episode fending it off a little bit more.
Yeah.
And Nick looks over at his uni applications and shuts the laptop.
I mean, such a great scene that like both of them looking at what they're worried about, and like Charlie again with his like, self-image that he's really kind of struggling with. But again, as you said, really good that he's able to like, nope, not right now, turns away and goes back to drumming, and then obviously Nick's got this hanging over him with like, and this is like, you see UCAS, right? Like on his screen, is it this? Yeah. So you know what that is, right? Have you looked it up? No. So UCAS is Universities and Colleges Admission Service. So basically it's like when you are when I had to do UCAS, so basically I kind of explained like the education system before in England, but it's when you go into university, you use UCAS to apply. So it makes sense within like the realms of later on in the season when they travel up to the universities, you would do that because you are going to check out those universities because you've like provisionally applied for them via UCAS. The reason I hated it so much is because one, I left it really late. So that was on me. But two, it was like at that age, like, 16, 17, to fill out this full application form of like, doing a personal statement of like who you are and what you're into, what you want to do. I'm like, I am 16 years old. I don't know what I want to do tomorrow, let alone my future, like filling all of that out and then like putting in like some of your like, like assessment grades and shit like that. So you're just like, oh my God, it was so much to like do. And then you had to do that like to choose, I think it was like a top 5 or maybe 4 universities of where you want to potentially go, and you would apply in order, like rank them in order of which would be the number 1, number 2, do it like that. And then you'd have to wait to get a reply from them to say, yeah, we'd like to meet you, we'd like to welcome you. So like it's a big thing in that time of your life, like when you are going to university, like sorting that out, because it's a brand new website, like you've never seen this before. It's very like corporate, and then putting your details in, selecting in universities, it's like a big thing. So like, it makes sense why it's hanging over Nick, because again, going back to what we've said earlier, like Charlie is his world right now. Like he doesn't know tomorrow what he's doing, but what he does know is that he'll have Charlie and he'll be hanging out with him because that's his most important thing. So like the idea of like literally relocating, which we find out later on in the season, but like going away and leaving his world behind is such a challenging big thing. And it's like so easy just to shut the laptop and forget about it. It's what I did for such a long time, you know, so I get it,
Yeah, totally. Also, before we move on to Tal's room, I just want to point out that the bisexual sock that was hanging out of Charlie's dresser is still hanging out of the same spot. So that sock's there to stay, I think.
The bisexual sock. Fantastic. A memoir by Nick Nelson.
Yes. Left in Charlie's room.
Yes.
So we cut over to Tal's room, and they're laying in his bed, and he's doing some homework. And he's like, I think this is the best drawing I've ever done so far. And he turns it to show Elle, and it's a goldfish, which admittedly is much better than the fishes we saw in his portfolio in season 2.
It's really good. It's really good.
He's gotten a lot better. And he's like, I'm improving. It's so good. And he says, Tao Su, artist of goldfish. I love it. And there's also, just to point out, there's a rainbow glare on his forehead in the middle of that, which I like to make note of all the rainbow glares that we get. And they share a little giggle, but then the tension builds some. And Elle is like, can I sleep over tonight? And he says, you know how my mom is about it. She loves you, but yeah, she'd say no. And he's like, we could watch a movie though. And he like comes over and he cuddles up next to her and he's like, what about Moonrise Kingdom? And she just shakes her head no. She's like gone nonverbal at this point. And he's like, do you want to talk about it? And she shakes her head no again. And he says, is there anything I can do to make you feel better? And she shakes her head yes. And she cuddles up next to him and he just holds her. And I just want to make a note that like, I see myself in this scene, because when shit gets really heavy like that, I go nonverbal too. I just like can't talk. And I know I've talked about that on the show a little bit, how I have like it's helpful to turn the lights off, and like, or to like turn away from each other. And like this is very much part of that. But this is a clear example of depression. She's low energy, lack of interest, feelings of sadness, and like, please let this be a lesson on how your intention doesn't really mean anything when it comes to the effect of your words and actions on others. Like, they may not have meant harm, but they have caused it. She is dealing with this because of that radio station and their actions.
Yeah. It's really tough to watch, and like, I mean, the actress plays it beautifully, but like, I can't help but feel just a twinge of, especially now, like that's exactly how she must be feeling right now, and that's why it makes it so much harder to watch, like, because this is literal lived experience right now for, many trans people. And, it's that kind of moment when you are going through something like that, where you're so clouded and you're so weighted down. Like, for me, it feels like such a weight that's hanging on me and like every part of your body. And you're there in body, but you're not there in mind, and like, she's laying there with Tao right now because of course she is, right? They're together. Like, that's where she would normally be, but that doesn't regiment how she feels, and it wouldn't right now because she probably feels like her mind is in such a different place. She doesn't know where that place is, doesn't know what time it is, doesn't know really a lot right now, but she does know how she feels, and that ain't good. So it's really hard to even, you've shared a little bit about yourself there, Ash. We're kind of similar in that way. Like for me, sometimes I find it hard to find the words to properly get out. So like, because sometimes it's so much easier to like feel an emotion, and for better or worse, you're in that. It like takes over your body, and that's what happens with me. So like, I kind of see that in Elle, where like it's taken over her, and it's like to go nonverbal like that. It isn't even a choice. It's just what's happening, and it's so hard to watch. I mean, again, beautifully played by the actress, but at the same time, I'm like, oh man, this is like lived experience right now, and it's like it's really undercut with that, which just makes it tough to watch.
Yeah, totally. But I'm so proud of Tao in this. Like he does everything right in this scene, right?
Brilliant.
He's like, let's watch your favorite movie. Okay, do you want to talk about it? Okay, well then what can I do? What can I do in this moment to help? So we cut to Darcy's room. First up, let's talk decor. They have this lamp. I think it's a lamp at least. And I can't really tell if it's supposed to be like a mushroom or if it's just supposed to be like a trippy face because I can see the face. But I love it. 10 out of 10. I love that lamp. Also, on the other side, there is like a rainbow hand that's making the like rock on sign. That's clearly for like rings and bracelets and stuff to sit on. But dangling from it is what looks like a Tamagotchi. Yes, hey. Darcy! Love it. There's obviously a bunch of other shit. Right. There's just kind of stuff everywhere. But those were my standouts.
Gotta love a Tamagotchi.
Yes. So they're making out. And Pegasus by Arlo Parks featuring Phoebe fucking Bridgers is playing. So good. I have some lyrics later that I want to talk about. And Darcy's like, it's been so long since you stayed over. And Tara says, I know it's my fault. And Darcy's like, no, I get it. You've had extra schoolwork and stuff. Like, it's fine. And Tara's like, I have. It's been too much. And Darcy immediately takes that opening and is like, yeah, I've been worried about you. And Tara says, don't worry. I've just decided I'm going to look after myself and do what I want. I'm like, she got there from talking to Nick. I love it. I love it so much.
Yep. What a payoff.
And then Darcy says, and that includes doing me. I don't know why. I don't know why this is the line. But for me, this is the cringiest line in the whole series. Like, really?
Right.
I love it.
Right.
Not complaining, but every time I'm like,
yeah, right. It was another way to maybe say that, but yeah.
Tara's like, obviously. And they go back to making out, and the lyrics we hear are blue jewels around your neck, you cool my distress, which I think is so perfect for like these two right now. And we get our first like very sweet sex scene. Like we saw flashes of Tao and Elle, but not to the extent of this and what we'll see with Nick and Charlie later. And we just like get flashes of their faces as they're like moving through and they're giggling, and it's just very beautifully done.
Yeah. No, props to the editing and the soundtrack as well to go with it. Great choice.
Yes, totally. I can't help but think about the Heartstopper podcast that they were on that came out before, where they were talking about the intimacy coordinator and how he kept saying, all right, now this is the moment of insertion. And so, like, I hear that in my head every time I watch this scene now.
You're like, oh, how sexy.
Yeah, the moment of insertion is coming. So then we cut to form.
Yes.
And Nick is signing Charlie's arm on his shirt.
Did you guys do this? Did you sign shirts? No? Oh, man, I, like, cheered when I saw this because, like, when you have like the last kind of day or like last couple of days leading up to the end of the year, this is what you did, like in school. And like, it wasn't always like the end of every year, but it was like when like, you know, the final year of like the final kids were going to leave and go on to like university or whatever, which obviously Nick and Tara and whatnot are going to do. This is what you did. We all signed each other's shirts like this. So you wrote like a little message and like signed your name, and it was always something dumb. Oh,
It's
like,
like yearbooks. Like we signed yearbooks every year.
Right. Like, oh, like still be friends and don't be strange and all that shite.
Yeah.
But then like little, I like that, they write like little in jokes in there as well
Yeah.
and stuff, because that's what you do with your mates. But yeah, we totally did this. This is what we did. So like to see that like recreated, and you'd even write it on the ties, because like, when are you going to wear them shirts again?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
and that's another thing. Like we didn't have uniforms, so.
That's right. You're writing on like your proper clothing. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Parents would have been pissed.
Right. This is my favorite t-shirt. What are you doing? But yeah, so like, and I remember I had my shirt. Obviously, I don't have it now, but for like years after leaving school, I still had my shirt and had all like the writing all over it. And like, by the end of the day, can you hell make out much of that writing? Because it's like all over. Like, whereas in this episode, it's like very perfectly placed and there's gaps. That ain't the truth. By the end of the day, you got writing all over there. It's great. But I had mine for so long after. I wish I still had it. But yeah, so just to see this happening, I'm like, yes. Yeah. Representation right there.
I tried to read to see what I could see on Charlie. There was a message from someone named Elliot, and I was like, who the fuck is Elliot? And then the only like fun, important one that I saw was Isaac's, where he like literally drew a book. Right. And it was like, I love you, Charlie, Isaac. So that was cute. Right. But I think a lot can be said about the placement of where Nick has put his I Heart Nick. There's plenty of room on the front, like you said, if he like wanted to be close to the heart or like something cheesy like that. But he chooses to write directly on one of Charlie's most sensitive spots. Mm-hmm. Just showing like how much he loves every single part of Charlie, even the parts that Charlie has trouble loving. And it just it gets me every time.
Yeah, it's great placement. And like the trust they have in each other now, leading up to what's going to happen at the end of the episode. So little moments like that is like another bridge in the trust that they're building for each other, So it's just, it's beautiful. It's these little details in Heartstopper that really seal the deal that I love.
Yeah, totally. And I love Nick. He's like, wait, move this way just a little bit. And he adds Nelson just to make it clear.
Just in case.
Like people didn't know. He's like, that's perfect. Now everyone knows how much I love you and how much you love me, more importantly.
Right, like people would have read it and be like, Nick Lachey, like who are we talking about here?
And then the bell rings, and I love that Mr. Farouk is yelling at them after the bell rang.
Yeah.
It's like, pipe down. He's like, I know that it's year 11's last day before study hall, but guess what? There's still one more day.
Mr. Farouk's so real for that.
Very Farouk. And Ajayi's walked in, he's got a clipboard, and he asked Charlie to have a word. I love this, like, little turn where Nick is like, I'll see you at rugby, and he touches his arm. And in the past, like, I think about in Talk, when he grabs Charlie's arm, like, as he's about to basically talk him into going to talk to, like, the way that Charlie looks at him when he touches him there is so, like, upset. But this is very much like yearning. He's like, oh, he touched me. So just the contrast of Nick touching his arm there now versus in the past is very apparent.
Right.
Mr. Ajayi's like, you're staying at Trim for sixth form, right? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I wanted to give you this. And he hands over the head boy application.
Who else had to fill in that application that in real life, Ashley? It was slightly different for me because we were like it was voted for. So like, and again, I didn't even put myself forward. It was, okay. So Adam was clearly a big gay in the closet in school, and all of the popular girls I was friends with because duh. So they all banded together and convinced all of their friends in the year to vote for me.
Cute.
So I had the girl vote. So and obviously, like, there was another guy who, like, obviously all the guys were voting for, who I really got on with, like this guy called Dean, really, really got on with him really well. And he was like deputy head boy because I wanted bitch. It was like, I was totally shocked because I was like, it's not something that I ever like asked for, like wanted, like being the slayer. I didn't ask for this, but
you were the chosen one.
I was the chosen one. Let me into every year. There's a head boy, but yeah, like, and then when I found out, like, oh yeah, like you're going to be head boy for the year, I was like, what? But it was like, I got like a little yellow head boy badge, and I still have it at home.
Cute.
Yeah, and it was on my blazer, and you had to wear it. And there were certain things that you had to do as the head boy, like you had to give a speech at the dance at the end of the year, and like stuff like that. So yeah, as soon as I saw this, I was just like, oh man, yep, Takes me right back.
Yeah. And in the comics, it's Mr. Farouk that gives him, and I think it makes more sense for Netflix Charlie to have Mr. Ajayi be the one to have this conversation with him.
He has more of that relationship with Mr. Ajayi.
Definitely. And he's like, campaigning starts in the autumn. I think you should apply. And he tells him that he's smart and a strong person, and I think you could do a lot of good for the kids at this school. Just something to think about over the summer. And Charlie's like, okay, so he starts to leave. And then Mr. Farouk is like, Charlie, wait, there are a lot of younger students who would find it inspiring to see you as head boy. That's all. And Charlie's like, yeah, I'll think about it, I promise. And then we get Mr. Farouk's like little leaf moment, and it floats over to the desk where there's a tiny Farouk, and we all burst into tears. That moment hit me hard watching it for the first time. And like, I love this because it's so subtle. But just from this little shot of him looking over at the desk and looking so like sullen and sad, and then Mr. Ajayi being like, shall we go get lunch? And he's like so full and like, complete when he looks over, and he like kind of smiles, and then he like looks over at the desk one more time before he leaves. And you can tell that he's like feeling really sad about these things that he missed out on in his childhood. Right. And like how he would have found a Charlie Spring type head boy inspiring and probably life-changing. But then now he's like, look at what I do have now, I'm here now with this amazing man that I love so much. And it really made me think about, not to bring it back to White Lotus, but it really made me think about that quote from Chelsea where she's like, stop thinking about the love you didn't get and start focusing on the love that you have. And this scene is very that. He's like pulled back into the present, and he's like, yeah, but look at the life I have now. So I should be happy. And what a quote.
Yeah, honestly, that should be tattooed on everyone.
I needed to hear that. I have thought about it almost every day since the finale. Yeah,
it really is.
Okay, so then we cut back to Lambert, and I love this blue-haired baddie that's sitting in front of the camera. Every time we see her, I'm like, yes. And we cut over, and Naomi and Felix are on either side of Elle, and they're looking at her painting, and Naomi is like, I think you might be finished, babe. And Felix is like, yeah, you should post it on Instagram. Your followers will love it. And Elle is just, she's not present. It's like she went into that interview and mentally she never came back out. She's like paralyzed in that state. And Felix is like, Elle, we know that you've been really down since that interview, like trying to open the door. And Elle like lets out a big sigh, and she says, it's not like this radio woman is a raging bigot or anything. She probably thinks of herself as an ally. But I was there to talk about my art. And I think that is the most that she said to anyone about it, based on the way that they react. And that kills me. I'm like, don't hold it in, girl. You have people that are there to listen, which is what they're about to tell her, but like, Felix is like, have you spoken to anyone about it? Tao, maybe? And Elle says, I love Tao, and he would fight the world for me. Accurate statement. But he just can't properly understand. And Naomi says, well, we're here. We might understand. And they each take one of her hands, and we get this beautiful shot like from the back of them, and it's so well done. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. These are her people that she needs right now, and like whenever like we go through, I guess, anything in life, like, when we're at our lowest and we really have been dragged down, to the center of our core because we've retreated so much inside of ourselves. I guess the first thing that I do personally is go to like, when you have like what you call my people, and you need to go, need to go with those people right now, because those are the people where you could literally lay down with in a dark room, as you said, Ash, and just verbalize your thoughts with, and there's no judgment or nothing. It's just the people that you need that will help you through. And I'm just so pleased that she's got her people around her, like to, without even saying anything, speak the same language as her. Do you know what I mean? Right. Like who just get it. Yeah. So they are the people that she needed to hear everything from, and they are brilliant support. I love them both, Felix and Naomi, like great characters to be there. And it's just that it's lovely, like the little journey that friendship's been on as well, from the first time we met them, to like now when like Elle like knows that these are her people she can go to. It's really, really well done. But at least she's in a place with them where she can verbalize how she feels because she needed that. For all that, Tao is wonderful, and it's exactly what she said. Tao would, and Tao has said that he would fight people before for her, right? So it makes sense. But yeah, sometimes you just need your people who get you on that level like no one else can. And that's exactly what you got here, and it's just brilliant.
Totally, totally. Also, this jumper is the same one that Felix was wearing when we first met them.
Oh, okay.
And I'm obsessed with it, which is why I noticed. So we go inside the locker room. I love this. I love this scene.
Yeah.
And Nick is like taking off his shirt, and Charlie looks over and is like watching him take it off, and they make eye contact. And Charlie kind of like smiles and looks away, and Nick is so chuffed. He's like blushing and smiling and staring at Charlie like, oh my God, he was looking at me. Did you guys see that? He was looking at me. It's so cute. And then we see Charlie and like turns to face the mirror, and he's clearly anxious about changing in here. And he turns back to the bench, and then we get this like little shot where we cut over to Nick tying his shoes, and he looks over to Charlie, and Charlie's already pulling the last bit of his shirt on. And we don't get this discussion that they have in the comics where Nick is like, how do you change so fast? Like, which totally gives it away. I know why they did. Like, this works without it, but like, you can hear all of those thoughts happening in Nick's head watching this.
The way he looks,
Yeah. And Charlie is like instantly taking the piss. He's like, you trying to peek? You trying to peek at me? Nick is like, what? No. And we get the classic, it's allowed, we're in love. Mm-hmm. And Nick is embarrassed as fuck. He's like, stop, I'm not trying to pee. Blush.
Yep.
And we cut to them on the pitch, kind of like mid-practice, I guess. They're running around, and Nick runs up beside Charlie and like grabs him and kisses him and turns to run away, and Charlie grabs his wrist and pulls him back for another one. And then we see just like a couple of rugby plays happen. Nick is walking next to Charlie, and he says, I had an idea. And Charlie's like, yeah? He's like, maybe one night you can stay around mine. Just us? And Charlie instantly starts blushing himself. And Nick is like, do you think your parents would let you? I know my mom would be fine with it. And I'm like, Nick, you know Jane Spring. You know.
This ain't happening.
Charlie's like, I'll ask. And I love Coach Singh being like, Nick and Charlie, pay attention. It's the last practice of the year. To which I say, ain't nobody giving you 100%. It is the last practice of the year.
Yeah, there are no shits given at this point, literally.
Yeah. And I love just like on the back of having them have these conversations of like, I don't know what I'm doing, but like, we'll figure it out. And then the lyrics that we hear during this flirty scene, they say, you say one more dance and I always give in. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I fall in your arms trying to save everything. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's just
well, if that ain't Nick singing those lines, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, so good. So we cut to the spring house for another one of my favorite scenes. I love this scene. They're walking into the house, and it is Tori and Michael and Charlie. And Tori says, yeah, good luck getting mom to agree to a boyfriend sleepover. And Charlie, so confident, he's like, she will. I'll ask her when she's in a good mood. Tori's like, yeah, that happens all the time. Mm-hmm. And Michael, being the voice of me, saying all my thoughts during this, he says, there's not really much point to her banning sleepovers. If you and Nick want to have sex, you'll have sex. You don't need a sleepover to do that.
I mean, totally true.
Yeah.
Totally true.
And Charlie's like, okay, well, if you two don't have good advice, then I'm going to go upstairs. And Tori says, my advice is to sneak out. Tori, are you trying to get him killed? You know your mother. You know, encourage this. But I guess they have each other. If they want to sneak out, they could at least have each other's back and like,
yeah, mom's
snooping around. Maybe you should come home, you know?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And then Michael, my king. My advice is that a sleepover is unnecessary for the activity in question. And Charlie's like, okay, and starts to go upstairs. And Michael says, good luck. I hope you do get to have your sex sleepover. So good. So good.
Your sex sleepover. Jesus Christ. So good.
And Charlie's like, thank you. And goes upstairs. And Tori's like, Michael, can you please stop talking about my brother having sex? And I love that he like looks really awkward and then he whispers, sorry.
And like shuffles off.
Yeah. So good. Oh, that actor is really good for Michael.
Listen, off microphone, Ashley and I, we were talking about Michael. And I literally sent a picture of the comedian and I guess actor Richard Ayoade. And I was like, if Michael does not grow up to be him, like, what are we doing? Because he looks so much like him.
He really does.
Like, I'm like, is that him? So, yes.
He really, really does.
Right. It like throws me off every time. Like, wait. Oh, no, it's not. It's not.
So we cut over to Tao at his computer. And he's looking over all this footage of Elle that he has. And he gets struck with an idea. And he starts a new project called Elle Short Film. I love this so much. It really shows like how much he's been thinking about what he can do to cheer her up. And like he's looking at all this footage and he's like, maybe I can make her this film that will mean as much to her as the one I made for Charlie meant to him. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I love to see Tao like finding himself and what he likes to do, and then turning that and using it like as a way to give back.
It's perfect. Like this for me, like this is Tao hitting at his highest. Like honestly, like this is the Tao that I love. Because you remember the first time that him and Elle were in the bedroom and the camcorder conversation happened, and that was really tough for Tao, you know, talking about his father and everything like that. He has taken that pain and everything that he's had to go through and kind of address with that, talking about his dad and like the camcorder and the memories and everything. And he's turned it into something positive. And that's really an adult thing, what adults do. You know, like he could have easily just put that away and just been like, nope, I don't want to talk about that. And that would have been valid, right? Because that's his experience. That's a tough thing he had to go through. But the fact that he took that with something that he loves, because he loves movies anyway, right? He's always talking about film and movies and like, you know, his language is always like, you know, cut and like, you know, he used all these different things. So the fact that he takes something that he loves and is passionate about, has worked and is using this to work through that trauma attached to the video camera to do something so positive for his friends and then his girlfriend is so good. Like, and something that he does so well, you know, like we laughed and talked about some of the cuts and some of the choices that he made with the Charlie video and like, fair enough. But what he does with this video is just, he is not, yes, he finds himself in this and that he's very focused on, you know, I know that I can do this because this is my thing. But every single cut that he chooses and every clip that he chooses is just perfection because he knows this isn't just random footage that I need to show of my girlfriend. I am showing and reminding my girlfriend of just how incredible she is and the fact that there is a chance and a possibility at happiness again because you have all of this around you. Yeah. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's almost like a don't forget who you are.
Exactly. Yeah. This is how we see you. The people that love you, don't forget that. This is how we see you.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Totally. So we cut to Nick's car.
Oh my God, I love this.
Yeah. He's driving Tara to ballet. And Tara says, well, me and Darcy wait until we have a free house. Or until everyone's asleep if they're staying over. There was one time that and she hesitates and Nick is like, what? And she says, I mean, school is an option. And Nick is like, you had sex at school? And she's like, yeah, it was just once and it was a really bad idea. And while we're focused on her saying that, in the corner, you can see Nick's face still and he like mouths, what the fuck?
He like practically swerves the car off the road. You did what?
Yeah, so good. And he's like, yeah, I don't think we're quite there yet. And also we have a history of getting walked in on, which is so true.
Right. And I mean, like, how many times have they like ran into a closet together at school and being like, oh shit, like someone's coming. But yeah, I love that though. I love that for like Tara and Darcy, like good for them finding their little area and just being like, let's just do it now. Like, I love that. It's so fun.
Yeah. And Tara's like, yeah, you guys have been waiting a long time. And Nick kind of like solemnly says, yeah. And she's like, well, it's not a bad thing. There's so much pressure to have sex at our age, but people should just take as long as they need. Speak the truth, queen.
Go off, queen, yep.
I feel like, yes, there's a lot of pressure at that age, but I think there's a lot of pressure in general. And people should just take their time. You know when you're ready. And you shouldn't be ashamed of not being ready at any age.
It's a social stigma. And it's like, it's one of those universal things where, like, you know, whatever your culture is, it's always something that's brought up. And it's like, why are we having this conversation? Like, but yeah, it is, as we said earlier, it's like it's built up so much at that age to be like this momentous moment of your life that you pass into the next phase of, like, fuck that. Like, Jesus Christ, calm down. Like, it's whatever you want it to be at that time. You know, if it's a big moment and, you know, fantastic. If it's not, whatever. Like, you know, and then, like, you know, all the time there's all these different views of it, as we said, where like Towley kind of says, like, look, yeah, it happened. We kind of fumbled our way through. Were we nervous? Of course we were, but it happened, whatever. You'll find your way, Charlie. Just like Tara's kind of saying to Nick here, really, you'll find your way when it happens. You know, don't put pressure on yourself.
Yeah. And then this is such a good section of their conversation. He says, yeah, Charlie's been through a lot. And she says, yeah, you've been through a lot too, Nick. Don't forget that. And he says, yeah, well, not really, though. And she says, it's okay to admit that Charlie being ill was tough for you. You don't have to be the strong one all the time. Trust me, I learned that the hard way.
I underlined and wrote that down because that's the other quote that I love from this episode. That is chef's kiss.
So good. And this is such a contrast, like the way, because he says, why do you have to be so, or when did you get to be so smart? Yeah. And she like kind of smiles in triumph, which is such a contrast to her getting like academic compliments and how she reacts to them. And I love seeing her like take this win, like, haha, yes.
And that's a good point, actually, that you raised, because, like, you know, she doesn't have a personal connection with those teachers. Like, they're, like, praising her on her academic ability, not on the person that she is. Whereas, like, to get that from a friend is so much more meaningful. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but even from her mom, when her, in the Christmas episode, when she's like, oh, you're going to go so far or whatever. And, like, the pressure that comes with that versus this just being, like, a lighthearted, like, you're so smart. Like,
yeah, no, totally. But again, like, even like with her mom, who was great, but like, again, there's still that like expectation hanging on that.
Truly.
Whereas with like Nick just saying that, it's like, oh, like my friend's recognizing that. That's really sweet. And there's no expectation for that, you know? So that's what I love about this. Like, that's what I love about this friendship, is that it's built on so much positivity. You know, like they're all like, they're checking in on each other all the time, going right back to season 1 with, like, you know, when they talk to each other initially, like how much their friendship has blossomed and moved on from that, you know, like it's just so well done. And they haven't forgotten to check in with each other. And that's what I love all the time, all the way through the series. They still check in on each other. And that's what I love in this. So like Nick following through by saying, I'll take you to your dance lessons. Here we are in the car. You know, it's just, it's so, so nice. And her saying that to him is knocking the ball out the park. It's what he needed to hear.
Totally. And this is a big lesson that I had to learn too. I think I've said this before, but like, you can't compare traumas. Like, just because Charlie went through something awful doesn't mean that what Nick was going through during that time, like, doesn't matter, or like he shouldn't be as affected by it because it quote unquote wasn't as bad as what Charlie was going through. It was a really tough time for Nick. And he was going through so much and processing so much during that time. And it's like clearly still impacting him, and he's still processing it. And I think that is another like disconnect that we have as a society, of being like, oh, well, I can't like talk about my issues because this other person that I have is going through so much worse. And like, what is that going to make me look like to, you know? And it's like, that's not how it works. You know?
Yeah.
It's affecting you. Then it matters.
And you should be able to speak about that. I was talking to a friend about this very recently, actually, where it's one of those things very similar where you can get so fixated in your routine that you do forget to check in on yourself. So like when that question comes from somebody, but how are you doing? It can completely catch you off guard, because you're like, whoa, like I don't have time to think about that. I've got all of this to do, you know? So like for so long, Nick has been like, I don't have time to think about that. I've got Charlie to focus on. He's the one that's going through this big thing right now. We should be looking at him. Take the spotlight off me, put it on him. All hands on deck for Charlie. And Tara easily cuts straight through that. And she's like, yes, Charlie went through something big. You were there. We were there. His parents, everybody was there. But how the hell are you doing, Nicholas? Because it's important that you answer that question.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And Nick, he's like, so, do you have any advice about that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, Nick, I am not the person to ask about sex between guys. And he's like, oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. He like clears his throat a couple of times.
Yeah.
And we cut to ballet, and Tara is doing her thing, and then boom, Darcy's in the window. And they like wave at each other, and I love they mouth at each other. Tara's like, what are you doing here? And Darcy's like, I just wanted to see you. And so then we immediately cut to them after class, and they're sitting down, and Tara's like, did you get the bus all the way here? And Darcy's like, yep, all 3 of them. And Tara's like, why? And Darcy said, I just wanted to see you dancing. You always look so happy when you're dancing, which is so sweet.
Very cute.
And Tara's like, you're so ridiculous. And Darcy starts to open up here, and they're like, it's nothing compared to what you've done for me this year. Letting me stay at your house, helping me to move to my grand's, taking me clothes shopping, convincing me to cut my hair when I kept backing out. And Tara's like, those are very low bar things, Darce. And Darcy's like, I just don't think I would have had the courage to explore being non-binary if it weren't for you. I mean, I probably would have gotten around to it eventually, but you made it just feel so easy and joyful. And I think this is the first time that they've said this out loud. Tara's like, non-binary. And Darcy's like, yeah, I know we haven't talked about it properly or anything. It's just a huge deal, and I didn't want to overload you with that, like, bomb drop, but you've seemed calmer recently. And Tara's like, I think this is an important line. She's like, it's not a huge deal unless you want it to be. It's you, and it's just me and you. And they have a cute little kiss and a cuddle. And I mean, I know it probably does feel like a huge thing, and, like, I guess there's the extra added layer into it of, like, being in a same-sex relationship and then one of you changing or adjusting your gender. Like, what does that mean for the relationship? Like, that's probably kind of what they were thinking about. But I love that Tara's, like, not even worried about it.
Right.
It's kind of like she knew the whole time, right? Like, she knew.
Yeah. No, and I think, like, it's nice because when, like, Darcy is saying that, like, they are basically checking in with Tara to say, like, is this, like, a thing that we need to discuss? Mm-hmm. And, like, they're looking for an answer from Tara, and then Tara's just like, honey, no. Like, this is not an issue. Like, we are good. Come here. Like, you know, and that's what they needed. Like, that's what Darcy needed in that moment. Just that little, just check in. You know, we still, oh my God, not even an issue. Let's go, you know. Yeah. And as you said, like, Tara definitely knew. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, and it is just that little moment of little conversation. And it's nice because it plays into the same thing again of, like, when we talk about these expectations and realities that are put on certain social situations. And don't get me wrong, like, depending on the couple and depending on the person, it can obviously be a big thing personally, like, whatever. It's down to the individual. But for these two in this moment, it's like, I got you. You don't need to worry about that. And it's lovely. Such a small moment, but so meaningful. Yeah, totally. Okay, so we cut to the spring kitchen. And this is I don't think people are going to like what I have to say about this scene. Okay, this is a roller coaster because, like, at first I was like, okay, Jen, here we go. Like, you're talking with Charlie about you're consulting the book together, you're choosing what food to make, you're showing Charlie how to make it. Like, you're getting on so well. And, like, straight I was like, this is a really positive interaction. Like, you know, she's checking in with Charlie, they're making the food together, she's showing him, they're laughing together, they're talking together. And then, you know, and then later on he's like, oh yeah, like, we could make this later on. And she's like, yeah, that would be great. Brilliant. And then it all goes tits up. Like, very quickly. The thing is that I'm on Jane's side. You know what? It's Charlie funny. It's funny. Not. Yes. Finish that sentence. Charlie is being extremely reactionary and fueled by his little hormones, and I cringe so hard at this scene. I said it's in my notes, Ash. Like, when I say it all goes tits up, it's because of Charlie. Yeah. And, like, when I was watching it again, and it's weird, like, so many times when you come back to watch these episodes, you've seen, like, a billion times, but it was this point where I was like, back off a second, Charlie.
Yeah.
Everything you both together were building this really positive space of like, confirming your like relationship and how you can work through things together, getting Jane on side. And like, it's beautiful what you've built here. And now you're throwing that away so quickly because bam, it's like, just back off a second. Have that adult conversation. You screaming at your mother like this. What have we learned in the past by this? It doesn't go down well. Yeah. You don't progress forward, So yeah, I agree. Yeah. But I do like Tori being like, Mom, like in the background, But again, Julio, what the hell's he doing?
I know.
I'm like, and when he like looks at Charlie and gives like the little nod as if to say, "Oh, now it's the time to ask your mother." You should be there. Like, what are you doing? It drove me insane.
Yeah, and in the comics, we get a shot of them talking, of Julio and Charlie talking, and like. They probably just didn't have time to like work that in. And like the little nod gives us the context that they have had this talk, but like we just need more Julio involvement.
Like, is Jin his only parent? Like, what are we doing, Julio? Like, honestly, I'm like, you should be there saying, come on, love, like, let's talk about this. And the three of them talk about it together. Just, what are you doing, man?
Yeah. So yes, they're like looking through the binder and they're, flipping through the pages, they pick something up, they get all the ingredients out. Charlie's like making her laugh, asking if stuff is rosemary that's like clearly not rosemary.
Right. Love that.
And I swear that at one point, Joe is just like saying terms that might be heard in the kitchen. Because there's like, he says something about a tap and then he just says boiling for no reason in the middle of it. And like, yeah. And so then, we cut to them cleaning up the dishes. It seems like they had a lovely time preparing it. And Charlie says, I really liked that one. And Jane is like, yeah, me too. We should try it again sometime. And that's, lovely. And that's when Charlie looks over at Julio, who gives him the supportive nod of, now's the time, go ahead. And Charlie says, Mom, me and Nick were wondering if I could stay around his one night. And Jane is like, oh, yeah, well, at some point. And he says, well, we were thinking soon. And she says, I'm not sure. I'm not saying no. Like, as soon as she says, I'm not sure, Charlie doesn't hear anything else that she has said.
Straight up.
Yeah. Yep. He even, like, rolls his eyes and is checked out at that point. And she's like, it's just that you have your GCSE exams coming up. And she says it's quite a big step. And he just immediately jumps to, and I'm mentally ill, so I can't. And she's like, no, that's not what I said. And he's like, but that's what you were thinking. That's what you're always thinking. You think I'm some child who can't make my own decisions. Okay, let's slow down, buddy. Slow down. One, you don't know what she's always thinking. You know what you are projecting onto her thoughts and her actions. But I need him to slow down. Also, he says twice, I'm not a child. And I'm like, but you are. You are a child.
And you're acting like one right now.
Yes. She's like, that's not fair. And then I feel like, okay, here's the other thing. He has set this whole thing up to manipulate her. This whole dinner was just to get her in a good mood so that he could ask this question. Yeah. And it's not going that well. So he throws another one in there. And the way he says it is so cold, too. He's like, Mr. Jai nominated me to be head boy on Friday. And she's like, that's great. But also, just because you're head boy doesn't mean you get to have a sleepover with your boyfriend, my guy. Like, what does that have to do with anything at this point?
Exactly.
Just another manipulation tactic. And she says, it's just that you're only 16 and you've been really ill. And that's when Tori jumps in and is like, Mom, like, what are you so worried about? We all love Nick. That's when she starts to get it. And I get it. Now you've got two coming at you.
She's been ganged up on.
So now she's overwhelmed.
Right.
And so now she is like, you know what? No, like we'll talk about this once your exams are over. And he says, I'm not a child. If I want to see my boyfriend, I will. You can't stop me. The way that I would have been a dead child. He like storms out the front door and slams it. My mom would have.
Actually, if I said that to my dad, I'd be no longer wearing my face.
No.
Like,
I was watching this earlier with Zach, and he was like, "Wow," and I was like, "Yeah, I would have got the belt. Like,
Same.
it would have been real bad. Just not even. I would have gotten so much trouble just for speaking that way, let alone leaving the property. Had I left the property like that, oh hell no.
Oh no. Like I would have been dragged in, I would have never left the property again. I'd still be there now.
Yes, yeah.
But Charlie does one of the most annoying things that I hear. It's like when he makes accusations based on his own assumptions and then blames her for it. And it's like, I understand you've been through a lot. I understand that the relationship between you and your mum has been very turbulent a lot of the time. But she literally just said, like, you know, let me think about that. You know, that's it. You know, like, it's not a no. She hasn't outright said, oh, come on, Charlie, what are you doing? She hasn't, like, jumped down your throat on her. You're the one that's raised the drama in the situation.
Yeah.
And, like, if you wanted to get on board with you, as you said, this is manipulation 101. If you want to get on board with the idea, don't attack her over her response. That wasn't no, was just like, I'm not saying no, but let me just think about this for a sec. Suddenly you're on the defense. Suddenly you're attacking her. That's not going to make this a yes. And the fact that you were like, in a shitty tone, well, you can't stop me. Like, what does that achieve? Like, it's just, it is cringe. It's like, how, Charlie, you're smarter than this.
Yes, yeah. But also I remember being a teenager and how those hormones flip at the just drop of a dime. So, I mean, I do get it. I get where he's coming from, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm Team Jane on this one. Yeah. Like, you didn't give her any processing time at all.
No.
You can't just immediately expect her to say yes.
And, like, you know, even if he just said, like, well, can we, like, just talk about it? Like, sit down, like, have a conversation, because that's worked in the past. You know, that's what got the ball rolling with him going to, you know, getting seen to, right? So, like, sit down and talk to her. That's normally the way to get through it. Like, lay it all out for her. But, yeah, again, as you said, Ash, you know, 16, you fly off the handle so easily. God, I did.
Yeah,
you know,
same.
So, yeah, you give allowances for that.
But I feel so deeply for her in this scene, because here she is, clearly wanting to bond with him. For like a couple of episodes, we've seen her like really working on her reactions and her tone and putting in the work, you know, and trying. And she was probably so happy after this meal and how well it went and feeling so good. Looked like they like really had fun working on it together. And then for it to immediately be flipped and thrown into her face. And now this good memory is like tainted.
Yeah.
And I just feel so bad for her. And the actress like walking up with like little tears in her eyes when Julio comes over.
But still, I was like, Julio, what were you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you should have been jumping in there at any point and being like, right, guys, calm down.
And it shouldn't have been Tori that came over and is like, why?
Should have been
like,
Julio.
Julio should have come over and the three of them should have had a conversation.
Yep, because as I said, it ain't just Jen who's parenting them.
Yeah.
Julio, what are we doing? But again, it's interesting because, you know, I've made my feelings about Jen very clear earlier on. That woman. But in this moment, I will say what I do like about this is that previous Jen was forever on the attack towards Charlie. You know, like constantly like kind of going at him and being the agitator to a degree. Jen's on the defense here. And rightfully so, because not only is she receiving this whole thing from Charlie, but then she's got her daughter jumping on her back. Her husband isn't really jumping in to say anything at this point.
Right.
So, like, you know, she has been backed into a corner right now. So I get why she's like, okay, well, no. If this is going to be the reaction, no.
Yeah.
So I get it. But then, like, yeah, like Charlie, like, obviously storming off. We know he's, like, walked out before. He walked out Christmas Day and everything like that. But, like, yeah, like the hurt that she sees when it's exactly what you said, Ash, when she's like, oh, we made such strides. We had such a great moment half an hour ago. Now look what it is now. Yeah.
Poor Jane. Not words that we will say often. Poor Jane.
So hang on to those for a while, guys, because that'll dissipate again.
Yeah. So we cut to Elle's room. This is super cute. We get like a nice little eye cover moment from them instead of Nick and Charlie for once.
Yeah.
And I love that he's like, are your eyes shut too? Because he knows that he's like not really doing anything.
Right.
And so they move her forward and he counts down and reveals to her that he's got this projector all set up in her room. And he's like, movie night. She's like, wow, Tao, you did not have to do all this. And he says, oh, but I do, because it's a special one tonight, which is so cute. And then he gives this little speech before they start where he says, okay, so before we begin, I want to say something. I know you've been really down lately and uninspired about your art. It made me think about when Charlie was really ill and I made him that little video. It was the first time I felt like I could create something that put joy into the world. I guess I've never really thought of myself as a creative person before that, but I love making these little videos to cheer people up that I love, so I made you one. And I just, not to get everyone crying, but the line, it was the first time I felt like I could create something that put joy into the world, is how I feel about the reaction I've gotten from this podcast. So thank you all. I love you all.
Ashley.
I know, I'm sorry. So The Most Beautiful Thing by Thomas Hedon starts playing. Another repeat artist. And so this video, Tao and his fucking videos, just to like go through what we see. We got Elle drawing in the park in that jacket that I want and like smiling at the camera and like flashing a peace sign. And then we have Elle dancing at Charlie's birthday party. And then like a close-up of her face as she's like laughing really hard at something. Some footage of her painting. And then we get the shot from New Year's Eve when she like tells him to put the camera down, and then some footage of them dancing because we can't have an Elle and Tao montage without some dancing. And then we have a Halloween shot of them all in their costumes, and then some footage of just Elle and Tao hanging out flirting. It looks like we see her and her dad outside the radio station, back to the painting, and the whole time we're kind of like flashing between the video and Elle's face to see like how she's reacting, and we see like a tear falls down, and we see the last shot is Tao and Elle at Charlie's birthday just being adorable, hugging up on each other, and he says, "I guess that's how I see you," and she hugs him and they have a little butterfly moment. And
I mean,
it's so good.
If my significant other made me a video like that, I'd be same reaction.
Yeah, totally.
I think, you know, we talked about the video obviously earlier as well, but just to kind of like sum up my thoughts on why this is so good is that, you know, comparatively to the Charlie video where it's like all of Charlie's friends telling him and his boyfriend how much he is loved, how much he is missed, you know? And like, it's like words that Tao kind of understands. Charlie needs to hear this right now, that we love him and that we're thinking about him, right? This video isn't that. And it could have been that. This video is actually, I want to show my girlfriend just how beautiful she is. You know, and it's like, of course, this is how we all see you. But remember, this is why you should be proud of who you are, because you are a beautiful person and you should love yourself no matter what anyone tells you in this world. Look at yourself. You are an amazing girl. You are fantastic. You are the best. And I want you to look at this because this is how we all see you, and you should see yourself like that. Again, regardless of what anyone else has to say. And that's why I love the video so much, because it is different from Charlie's, right?
Yeah.
Like, Charlie's is, you know, the words that he knows that his friends need to hear from him, but Elle needs to see herself right now.
Yeah.
And that's what she gets, and it's beautiful.
That's such a good point. I love that. It is like, Charlie's was like, you're not alone. Look at all the people in your life you have that love you, and this is how much we love you. And this is like, here is a reflection of your essence. Do you see how beautiful you are? It's so good.
That's what it is. And that's why, you know, Elle starts to cry because, you know, she needed to see that after so long of like, you know, seeing all of that horrendousness, like looking at her phone and like having people telling her that people like her or not accepted and like all of the horrendousness. But then just to see herself like that, purely herself in her unfiltered self, having the best time of her life because she's living so authentically as who she is and has every right to do that. It's just a beautiful reminder that, you know, like you are fantastic, and I'm pleased you can see yourself like this because this is how I see you, baby.
Yes.
Brilliant, brilliant by Tao.
Yes. And so they're hugging and she's crying and she says, "It feels like the whole world is against me." And Tao's like, "You can always talk to me about it, yeah?" And she says, "I'm just scared that you won't get it." And he says, "But I'll try. I'll always try." And they do little forehead touches. The forehead touches in the show kill me. Every single time it happens, I melt. So yeah, that is just like such a beautiful scene. Then we cut to Nick's room, and he is in his bed on his laptop. Before we get into the laptop, I want to point out that Henry has been added to the wall over by the window. It's like a little photo of him. And I love Nick's blue and yellow blanket that he's all wrapped up in.
He looks so cozy, right? Like when he's all wrapped up in it, I'm like, I need a blanket like that.
Yeah, specifically that one.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to talk about the websites we see for a second. So the first one we see is Leeds, and it's like green and like a pinkish color. And then the photos of the people are all in color. And it's like the first one we see is like a diverse group of students, and they're all together and they're like looking at a book together. And then he goes to like sport and physical page, and the first thing listed is rugby, which I think is interesting. And the tabs at the top we see are study with us, there's a leads tab, staff, students, clubs, alumni, and admission. And then we go to Kent's website, and it's like a very pastel purple and grayscale. So all the photos are grayscale. I mean, it's still diverse, but to me, it looks like the first one looks like a teacher and a student. Mm-hmm. And then the second one is either a teacher or like a guide and a group of students. And then the tabs at the top are study, business and partnership, research, global, courses and departments. So what I gather from the websites is that Leeds is much more about creating a culture than Kent is. Like there's like clubs and there's like a Leeds tab so you can see like what's around campus and like what kind of clubs or social events you might be fun for you, you know? But Kent is like pretty focused on the academia. Mm. There's nothing like social on their website at all. The photos too, that like the Leeds photos is like students together doing student things, and like Kent's is very much not that. And so I feel like that just the websites alone are like, don't you want to go to Leeds?
Yeah. That kind of tracks as well. Like, if you look at like weirdly more northern cities in the UK and like their universities compared to say something like Oxford, it completely tracks. Like that's more, it's like, you know, as you get, and don't get me wrong, like every university has like, you know, a big like social kind of life and everything about it, but like there's something about those northern cities, like, and not just, I'm not being biased, like this is genuinely what I hear from people that aren't from the north of England as well, where the nightlife and the social life and like the kind of student union of it all is like so much better, and it's so much more of a bigger impact. So for Leeds especially is one of those big cities that has that. Makes complete sense. But it is kind of like a big arrow pointing at Leeds to say, come here, Nick, this is where you're going.
Yeah. And he slams his laptop shut and pulls out his phone. He opens one of Charlie's photos, and it's so comic accurate too, by the way. It's exactly the one that he pulls up in the comics. It's Charlie on Nick's bed playing the Switch, and he like is just looking over at Nick with a smile on his face. And this jumper is the one that he wore in Bully and in Journey when he's leaving for the hospital. And he is looking very stressed and defeated, and he like sighs and he puts the phone down and closes his eyes and lays back, and then pink daydream flowery swirls come in, and we hear Charlie say Nick, and he opens his eyes and we see Charlie, and I love the like neon swirls are like flowing through like a current between them, you know? And Charlie's like, do you need a distraction? And Nick is like, yeah. And I put cue the music, because we get like the music here. And we see Charlie kissing Nick's neck. And we see like a flash of Charlie where he was sitting back, where he asks like, do you need a distraction? And I love that because it's like right when Nick closes his eyes, we get that flash because that's what he's seeing. So good. And then it like closes in on Nick's face and the swirls get like more intense. And then all of a sudden it's a very dark background and Charlie's upset and he's saying, please don't leave me behind. And Nick like snaps out of his little daydream. And like, I do giggle every time. It's not funny, but I giggle every time the way that he like wraps the blanket around himself a little bit tighter. It's very good. And so my note about the jumper is, do we think that somewhere in Nick's subconscious, he associates this jumper with being separated from Charlie? Because he wears it to the movies in Bully, and that leaves with Charlie, like, running out and leaving, and then trying to break up with him in their school clothes. He doesn't see him again in his day clothes, or, like, civilian clothes, whatever you want to call it, until after sports day. So that's literally the last jumper he saw him in before he was trying to break it off with him. And then it's the one that he wore when he left for the hospital. And it's the one that he daydreams about here, where he has Charlie saying, please don't leave me. Yeah. So I just like thought that was an interesting tie-in.
Definitely. I mean, first of all, props for calling it jumper. We're here for that. Yes, Ashley. Come over to the UK side. But as well, like, yeah, you know what? And that does make sense, because I remember like at that age, like, I don't know if you're the same, Ash, but like when I would see people at like college, or I guess like, you know, out of school uniform, I would associate people with particular clothing that they'd wear. And like, you do attach things sort of people, right? Like when you create memories of like times when you have with people, and especially those negative, dramatic ones, like obviously what Nick's gone through with Charlie, you can associate that with people, like, because that's the last, as you said beautifully, the last time he saw him, it's like sitting so heavily in his trauma, that's what he was wearing. So that is almost like the trauma jumper. Do you know what I mean? So that makes complete sense. And that's a great detail by the costume department. Again, for getting him back into that clothing, because that's what we do. I mean, that's definitely what I do. Like, I remember people buy, and it's not even a thing of like, oh, they were wearing this because it's this brand. It's not about that. It's just like, I remember you because I remember that color, that top you had on, that day we had together. It's like that thing.
It's the mental image you have of someone.
Yes, I literally, as you kept saying, like snapping his eyes open, snapping closed. It is like taking that photograph of that person, and that's what you remember them in, So, and I mean, how can you forget any kind of level of detail when you are watching your partner go through something so heavy, right? So it makes complete sense why you'd remember that particular jumper. So yeah, I love that. I love that level of detail.
Totally. We hear the doorbell. And we cut to the front door, and Charlie's there. And I wrote, manifestation.
Speak and you shall receive.
Yes. And Nick, like, smirks a little at seeing him standing there. Charlie, like, takes a breath, and he looks, I wouldn't say upset, but maybe disappointed.
Yeah.
And they say their highs, and they walk inside, and Charlie's like, I should have texted. And Nick is like, no, what's wrong? Are you okay? And then we cut up to Nick's room, and Charlie is mid-rant. She's like, you were only 16 and you've been ill. And it's like, okay, what does that have to do with me spending time with my boyfriend? She never listens to me. I'm sick of everyone treading on eggshells around me. Like, yeah, I've been ill. I just had to say, before I continue the rant, that at this point, Charlie has walked over and sat down on the bed, and he's giving this rant next to Nick. This was so smoothly executed by both of them. Nick, like, turns slightly and goes to put his arm around Charlie, and in the same motion, Charlie slings his leg over Nick's leg.
Yep, I noticed that.
Yeah, and Nick, like, grabs Charlie's knee, all in one fail swoop. Back to the rant. He says, but that doesn't mean I can't do fun things, like be a teenager. I'm not fragile. And Nick is, like, rubbing his back, and Charlie has now intertwined their fingers on his knee. And the rant continues. He says, and I want to have sex with you. What's wrong with that? And now Nick can't speak. He just, like, lets out a breath and blushes. And Charlie, like, takes that reaction in and has, like, a little giggle too. And then we cut to their hands, and they're lacing their fingers together. And I'm like, I didn't see Charlie pull away, but we'll just pretend they did so that we can get this beautiful classic shot of their fingers touching and the fireworks all sizzling. And they giggle one more time. And then Charlie turns serious again. And he's like, you don't think I'm fragile, do you? And Nick is like, no, you're like the strongest person I've ever met. You know exactly who you are and what you want. I think I'm more fragile than you are. Alarm bells are going off in Charlie's brain right now.
Right.
He's like, what? Why? And he, like, touches Nick's shirt, and we see, like, his fingers and the little sizzles. So there's still this, like, undercurrent happening as they're having these, like, very intense conversations. And Nick says, you give me so much confidence, but when you're not around, and he, like, hesitates, and he looks away from Charlie to continue. And he says, I don't know, I guess I feel a bit lost. And Charlie starts to respond, and Nick is like, shut it down, I can't feel emotion. So he's like, no, it's nothing. And he pulls away, and he, like, sits back on the bed. And Charlie, like, immediately shuffles back and follows him. And he's like, no, what do you mean? And their legs are, like, touching, but he's still, like, kind of turned towards Nick so he can look him in the eye, which I love because he's, like, giving Nick his full attention, but he's also giving him the physical touch that he knows is, like, Nick's love language. And Nick says, I can't talk to anyone else like I talk to you. And Charlie shuffles even closer, and Nick says, when I realized I was bi, I feel like I woke up. I was repressing so much of myself before. You know, not just my sexuality, but my thoughts and feelings, my personality. I still hide behind that mask sometimes. You know, just laughing and joking with my mates, but never really opening up to anyone. And now I'm thinking about uni and my future, and basically I'm just freaking out. And Charlie looks at him, and you can tell he, like, doesn't really know what to say right now. So he, like, leans in and touches his face, and then they do a forehead touch, which I've already said kills me. And they smile, and Nick leans over and kisses him. And then he's like, that didn't make any sense. And Charlie says, it did. You're allowed to be a mess sometimes. Nick says, oh, I'm a mess now, am I? And Charlie's like, I think we're both a bit of a mess. They start kissing. Sparks start flying. Charlie leans over and starts straddling Nick. And the, like, neon current is back flowing between the two of them as they, like, touch all over each other. And Charlie leans back, and Nick immediately feels bad. And he's like, oh, you came here all upset, and I made it all about me. And Charlie's like, shut up.
Yeah, let's just shut up.
And Nick is like, yeah, but... And he's like, Nick, shut up. And Nick listens this time. And so the making out resumes, and we get Ode to a Conversation Stuck in Your Throat by the Delwater Gap. And I cannot express with words how perfect this song is. From the genre of music and the sound of the song to the lyrics. I mean, it is just vibes on vibes on vibes, and it is so perfect for this.
Yep.
Charlie pulls away again, and he says, is anyone home? And Nick says no. And then Charlie removes his jumper. And I said, is this still a jumper or is this a cardigan if it is open front?
If it's open front, it's a cardigan.
Okay, so he removes his cardigan. The lyrics... As Charlie is removing his cardigan. I do not want to think about this anymore. I just want to lay back and watch you pin me to the bed. Nick runs his hands down Charlie's arms as we see sparks fly and we hear the lyrics. I used to call you my best friend way back before you were my everything.
Oh my God.
It's so good. And Charlie's like, do you want to carry on? We don't have to if you don't want to. And Nick cuts him off and he's like, this is literally the only thing I've been able to think about. And
like that track from the beginning of the episode.
And so the makeout resumes full force. The sparks are flying, swirls are swirling, all in the daydream pink. Nick flips them over, so he is straddling Charlie, and he asks if Charlie wants his shirt off, and Charlie barely lets him get the question out before he's like, yes, yes! And Nick rips his jumper and his t-shirt off in one go, as one does, and we see it thrown down on top of Charlie's. And then from here on out, we just get, like, some really beautiful shots of them in flashes. While we hear, these are the lyrics, and it hits me, I don't want anybody else touching you like I do. Is it okay that I don't want anyone else touching you like I do? And then somewhere we hear, tell me that nobody else touches you like I do. Tell me that nobody else touches you like me. So good.
Wow. That level of detail, man.
Yeah, it's very good. So yeah, we see them making out. We see their hands finding each other, which I love. I love that shot in both this scene and the next sex scene where they have their hands together. It's so cute. And then we take a break from them kissing to like giggle about something. And then we see Nick like run his hand down to Charlie's pants. And he's like, is this okay? And I have little clap emojis. Thank you for the consent.
Yep.
Charlie says yes. And then we see the pants join the jumpers. And I love this shot where the camera is focused on the picture of Nick and Charlie that's on the bookshelf. And they're like blurry in the background, but you can see them like rolling around. We see their faces as Nick is holding Charlie's face and they giggle. Nick like comes up for air and he locks eyes with Charlie. And he's like overwhelmed for a second. And we get another forehead touch before they resume. And like this was designed to kill me with the forehead touches. And then as they continue, we like zoom past them to the photo wall and focus on the beach day photos from season 1. Help, 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 help.
Oh, just the whole thing. It's just perfection. It's like, it's the perfect payoff for like the buildup that we've had this whole episode, you know? So like, it just makes sense. And like, it is kind of like that, okay, finally. Like, you know, because I mean, if that was me at that age, like we would have been there really quicker. But, you know, it's cute for them and I'm pleased for them. I'm happy for them. And it's great. Like it's naturally built up in the episode where it's gotten to this point. You're like, okay, this is the payoff. And like, yeah, it's great, especially for where like we go in the next episode where like they're so together here, whereas the next episode they're physically so apart. And like as you said, the song with those lyrics, wow, makes complete sense. And like the zooming in on the memories of like from season 1, how far they've come then to where they are now. It's just it just plays so well. Yeah,
I love also that every step of the way in this scene we have consent checks. You know, we get the. Do you want to carry on? Do you want my shirt off too? Is this okay? Thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone on the team because this is so important to see like healthy boundaries and healthy communication around consent. And I just like cannot stress enough how important this representation of sex is.
Yep. Absolutely that. Yeah, really well put, Ash.
That's the end of the episode.
Yeah, gosh. Like, oh man. It's so nice as well to like finish an episode on this point because we've had like, we've moved out of the middle of the season, which is definitely like the heavier, kind of darker part of the season. And even like moments in this episode, which are really tough to kind of watch and go through. But oh man, just what an ending.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just great. Again, it's just another emotional level of their relationship where, when we get the start of the next episode when like they're laying in bed together and it's like
so cute.
It's so cute, like so proud of them both for like, as we said before about both tops off, like, like the strength that Charlie's been on with that and how, you do enter that different level of relationship when you do like physically like entwine with another person, literally like you do enter another level of it and it's like it's new and like the relationship feels like new and different but in great ways, so like it's great as well that we've stayed with them for so long on this relationship and been through like the dramas and everything that's happened there, but this is such a high and such a win for them.
Yeah, totally.
And it leaves like that feel good at the end of the episode. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, do you got a favorite quote for us?
Yeah, I mean, I've got two. So, like, I've got a jokey one and I've got a serious one.
Same.
So, like, the serious one is you don't have to be the strong one all the time. Trust me, I learned that the hard way. I think Tara speaks so much truth in this episode. And I think that for me is like just chef's kiss. Like, that says everything for their characters. But then I also have Tao saying, just have sex with him, please, so we can stop hearing about it. Yeah. I think that's great. Great from Tao. So and good. Just so, like, literally just saying, shut the fuck up. Go and do it. So just stop blabbering on about it all the time. But in, like, a friendly, like, ribbing type way. So I love that. So, yeah. So those are my two. What about you?
Yeah, love. So my serious one is when I realized I was bi, I feel like I woke up.
Yep.
Because that is exactly how I felt. I was just talking to my friend Kate about this recently, where it's like, it's not that I like wasn't into all of the interests that I was in, but I started to reevaluate why I was interested in those things and realizing that like a lot of it was like community building, right? Like, oh, I was into this because that's what some of my friends were into. And so I got to like hang out with them and like do stuff. So then I started really like picking apart, like, who am I, after I realized that I was bi. So that Nick's whole journey hits really hard for me, but
I love that for you.
That line for sure.
Yeah.
And then my funny one is, my advice is that a sleepover is unnecessary for the activity in question. Good luck. Yeah. I hope you do get to have your sex sleepover. So good.
That is a great Michael line.
And it's proven true by the end of the episode.
Oh yeah. As I said, and as we said earlier on, it's like not one of those fantasized moment in your mind of like everything needs to be perfect and laid out and it needs to go like this. It just happens when it happens. And that's why it makes it so much more real that it happens in this way.
Yeah, totally. So where'd you fall on the scale?
Okay, so I really like this episode. I think the last two episodes of this season are proper bangers. So I'm sitting at like 105 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah,
very nice.
I think this definitely has tough moments, which we've explained why. But I think what I love about this is that, yes, it has those tough moments and they're very relevant, they're very real, they're very important to address and acknowledge. But the payoff for that from Tao is just, I think, of course, I'm not a trans person. I can't speak to that experience, but I just think someone that's going through a difficult time, whatever that situation is, to have that type of partner who sees you and just hits to the core of exactly what you need in that moment is just brilliant. As I said, it's like such an adult way of viewing the situation, because Tao could have gone down a very selfish route, which we've seen him do many times before. So the learning that Tao's done from that to this and having an adult relationship at such a young age with Elle, brilliant. So that's what I mean. Like, yes, these moments are harsh to watch, but the way Tao navigates that and like, that's so what that person needed at that time, and it's just brilliant. And I can relate to that when people have done things like that for me, and I just think, oh my God, like you just knew exactly what I needed, and I didn't need to say anything. So yeah, so that, but then also just like seeing how boys, like, growing up and just like having sex and moving into their like adult relationship as well. And just, it's so nice as like, you know, a queer young gay guy in England at that age as well to like have that shared experience. It's just, it's lush to see. So yeah, there's just so many wins in this episode. For all that there are so many tough moments, there's so many wins. Yeah. And so it's right up there for me.
Definitely.
What about you?
Well, Adam, I'm going to give it a very calm amount of 745 billion out of 5. It's, one of my favorite episodes. It's so good. Like you said, there's so many wins. We get to see so much development for all the way around on all fronts in this episode. So yeah, from Tara and Darcy just like being there for each other and getting to see them grow even closer, and all of the Tara and Nick stuff is so good. And like the Tao and Charlie stuff. I also just love that Isaac was just like very quiet in this episode, which tracks as this being like one of the horniest episodes.
Yep.
Isaac's like, I will be in the corner reading my book if anyone needs me.
Yep, peacing out. Yep.
Yeah, and then just, you know, obviously all of the Nick and Charlie stuff is just like, and we have like 4 forehead touches in this. The forehead touches really, 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 really destroy me.
I mean, that was made for you alone, Ashley.
Really was. They were like, let's kill her. Let's do this.
All right, well, that wraps us up for today. We'll be back in 2 weeks with season 3, episode 8, the big finale, Apart.
How are we at the end?
We're at the end of this journey, Ashley. Wow.
If you want to follow us online, we are at Why Are We Cast on all platforms. And until next time, bye.
Bye.